So the reading today, there is more to us than we realize. There is a universal wholeness seeking expression through everything. We are calling it simply life. Life is infinite energy coupled with a limitless creative imagination. It is the invisible essence and substance of every visible form. Its nature is goodness, truth, wisdom, and beauty, as well as energy and imagination. That's by Ernest Holmes. So you can take that into that sacred place within for a few minutes of contemplation. So I rest in this comfort and this magnificence of God that is absolutely everywhere, all the time, walking with me, as me, and around me every moment of every day. This divine energy that is interwoven down to the depth of our soul. It is part of the fabric of who we truly are, that divine energy, this divine outpicturing of our own being. And so how good it is to have that creative imagination with God. Because I know that that divine energy is just everywhere. It is cultivating this service. It's working through everyone at this time present here. I know that it works through Reverend Cece as her words are expressed perfectly, effortlessly, and easily. Through our band, through the children's church, and every single person that is in this place today, and the people who aren't here as well. Just knowing that we are absolutely blessed. And I give such thanks for this truth, because I know that there's this perfect divine orchestration. And together we say, and so it is.
Turn that camera on, Lisa. Oh, is it? Oh, cool. Hi. Smile for the camera. So our founder, Ernest Holmes, said in his statement, which was originally called What I Believe, and has become What We Believe, although it's not dogma, it's sort of a cosmology. He said, we believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny. And we understand that the life of all is God. My question to you is, do you? Do you believe in your own soul, your own spirit, your own destiny, meaning that which we are creating at all times? Do you understand that your life is much more than you've ever considered? Do you understand that there's something inside of you that is so much bigger than anything you might have experienced to date? Dr. Holmes went on to say, you exist, we exist, that divine feeling, fire, imagination, and creativity may be expressed through you. Do you believe that? See, in my mind, that is the ultimate personal responsibility, which is a part of our topic for this whole month. We're finishing it up today. It's spiritual guidance and personal responsibility. And the ultimate personal responsibility, I think, is for each of us to come to actually believe that we are expressions of the infinite, whatever you want to call that. That we are the place the divine feeling and fire and imagination and creativity gets expressed in our world. Not just to say it, but to come to believe it. To take responsibility for allowing as much of that divine feeling and fire and creativity and imagination to pour through us as we possibly can. To live as though it is done unto us as we believe. to make sure that our belief lines up with this infinite truth that every mystic of every religious tradition has told us. There is more to us than we know. Much more, much, much more. Holmes said, spirit, simply, we are spirit and we are law. The law of our life, which is what we create, the law of our life reacts to our spiritual or material concepts and builds and rebuilds according to our beliefs and our faith. Builds and rebuilds, which means there is nothing that's holding us in the place we are now. Nothing is set in stone. We're never bounded by what we've already done or what's already happened to us. Our experience is built and rebuilt according to our beliefs. So when we change our beliefs, our whole life is rebuilt according to that changed belief. Imagine with me for a moment a world where everyone understood that basic principle. That all is God, that every person, every entity is an expression of divine feeling, fire, imagination, and creativity. That there is a universal wholeness that expresses within everything, and that we see it and respond to it with our words and our thoughts and our actions. That would be a world that worked, I think, for everyone. It would be a world where the divine in me sees and responds to the divine in you. It would be a world in which I never ever forget that the divine exists in both of us. It would be a world where if you were hungry and I had food, my food would become your food. If you were in need of support, my support could become your support. If you had shelter and I had none, sharing your shelter would be the natural thing to do. It would be a world in which if your faith was lacking and I had faith, you could borrow mine until yours was strengthened. It would be a world where if a place lacked beauty, we would bring beauty to it. If there was someone who needed compassion, we would bring compassion. It would be a world in which we all did as much as we could to keep our minds focused on the more that is within us, rather than on the less that the world focuses on. I ran across a wonderful poem that I've never read before. It's called Ithaca by C.P. Cavafy. And its imagery comes from the Odyssey, the saga of the Odyssey. So I want to just tell you in advance, so you'll know these words when I say them. The Laestrygonians in Greek mythology were a race of giant cannibals. Not nice people, right? And most of you know the Cyclops and the temperamental sea god, Poseidon. So this is the first stanza of Ithaca. When you start on your journey to Ithaca, then pray that the road is long, full of adventure, full of knowledge. Do not fear the Laestrygonians and the Cyclops and the angry Poseidon. You will never meet such as these on your path if your thoughts remain lofty. If a fine emotion touches your body and your spirit, you will never meet the Laestrygonians, the Cyclops, and the fierce Poseidon if you do not carry them within your soul, if your soul does not raise them up before you. That in it is such a great little nutshell of keeping our thoughts lofty, letting the fine emotion touch our being and guide us. We will never meet the horrible gods and monsters that our mythology tells us of if we keep that fine emotion in our body and our spirit. If our thoughts remain in the realm of the divine, that's everywhere. If our vision sees the divinity that's everywhere, then our hearts remain solidly in love. If we live from the realization that we are where God shows up, then what we encounter on the journey are other divine beings, not cannibals or one-eyed giants that are out to kill us or angry gods. We see other divine beings, each expressing divinity in his or her way. Fine and dandy, you say, fine and dandy, but what about the real world? I submit that that is the real world. That is the real world. That everything we experience starts right here. Right here. I have a couple of stories today. Today is storytelling day. I love to tell stories that illustrate what happens in the world of form when people live from their greater beingness, when they live from that divine. One of them, I don't know whether it's true or not. The other one I do know is true. But you may have heard this one. A daughter called up her mother one early April and said, "You have to come and visit me. You have to come with me to see the daffodil garden." And the mother didn't know what all the fuss was about, but she said, "Okay." So the appointed day came and it was foggy and overcast, and Mom wanted to cancel, but her daughter was so excited that she drove over, picked her daughter up. They went off to see the daffodil garden. They drove 20 miles up towards the mountains and down a gravel road, and they saw a little church and a handwritten sign that said Daffodil Garden with an arrow pointing. So they parked and followed the sign down the path and turned a corner to be confronted by a breathtaking sight. An entire valley and hillsides covered with blooming daffodils, covered. Acres and acres and acres of daffodils that had been planted in sweeps and flows of color, orange and white and pale yellow and deep yellow and pink and saffron, and thousands of them. And the mother said, "Who did this?" And the daughter said, "It's just one woman. She lives on the property. There's her house." So they walked over towards the house, and on the porch was a sign that said, "Answers to the questions I know you're asking." The first answer was 50,000 bulbs. The second answer was one at a time, by one woman, 2 hands, 2 feet, and very little brain. But I would add a lot of heart. The third answer was, began in 1958. And they understood. They understood that this woman who they have never met, more than 50 years before, had begun one bulb at a time to bring beauty to this place. She planted 1 year at a time, 1 bulb at a time, year after year, and she had changed the world in which she lived. She'd created something of beautiful, glorious, joyful magnificence. What wonderful, divine, life-changing idea is in your mind that you think, "It's too big, I can't do it. It'll take too long, I can't do it." What bulb can you plant today? What spiritual practices do you have that will sustain you through that time where it looks like there's just a few puny flowers on a whole lot of hillside? How are you going to keep this vision and fire alive until you're brought to your knees with the beauty of it all? Do you believe that you are the place where divine feeling and fire and imagination and creativity show up? Here's the second story. You can look this one up on the internet. The name is Marion Luna Brem. In 1984, she was 30 years old and she was diagnosed with breast cancer and cervical cancer. Had 2 surgeries in 11 weeks and was given a death sentence. And her husband walked out and said, "I can't handle the pressure." So the doctors said she had 2 to 5 years to live if she was lucky. She also had 2 little kids. So one hot Texas morning, she was lying on the cool porcelain bathroom floor trying not to be sick from the chemotherapy, and she realized that she had 2 kids that she had to take care of. That she didn't have the luxury of lying there feeling whatever she was feeling, that she really needed to get a vision. She had to find a job, but she had little experience and little education, and she was a Hispanic woman. Lots of strikes against her, right? Her best friend said, why don't you look for a job in sales? And she thought, wow, I don't have any skills. And the friend pointed out that the skills she'd gained as a wife and mother were important. Time management, budgeting, people skills, all those things. So she mustered up her resolve and went to find a job in car sales. She had worked for a time as a receptionist at a car dealership, and she knew there was a lot of money to be made there, but she also had an idea. She knew that most of the time the car salesmen talked to only the men, and that most of the time the woman was the one influencing the final decision. So she thought, I'll talk to the women. She was right, by the way. There was something done later, a study done later, that said that 80% of the time the woman is driving the final decision if a couple's purchasing a car. So she started, approaching. Have you ever thought about hiring a woman? She'd ask the manager, and the manager would say, no. So she'd go to the next one. She did that 17 times. And the 18th time she thought, I'm going to change my approach. Here's what I can do for you, she said. They hired her, and she started her career in car sales. Her first year, she was the top salesperson. Salesman, of course, her plaque said. She was the top salesperson in that dealership. And the next 2 years, she was right up at the top as well. And then she decided she wanted to do more. She wanted to get into management. So she went to her boss and said, could you consider me for a management position? He said, no, I'd be crazy to. You make way too much money out there. So she, even though she didn't really want to leave the security of it all, she left and went looking for a management job. And it took her several weeks, but she was finally hired in an entry-level management position. And she climbed that management ladder, and 2.5 years later decided she wanted her own dealership, run by women for women. And all she needed to do that was $800,000, which might as well have been 800 million, right? So she put together what she called her brag folder. She got 50 manila folders and put her clippings, her certificates, her biography, all of it in there. And then on the advice of a friend, she sent it to CPAs all over Texas who were looking for places for their clients to invest money. And one of them did. One of them decided to invest in her $800,000, and then he also helped her arrange all of the loans that she would need, the factoring and all that, to stock and man and market, stock and woman and market her first dealership. She went to Chrysler Corporation and cut a deal with them, and then decided, what am I going to name this thing? And it turned out she called it Love Chrysler. She said, it's the strongest force in the universe, and her motto is, we're spreading love all over Texas. So now she and her kids have multiple car dealerships. She's a published author of, I think, 3 books, and a speaker, and the cancer went away a long time ago. See, every one of us gets to make a difference in our world when we remember that there's so much more inside of us than anything we've told ourselves or anybody else has told us, anything we've already experienced, anything that seems like it's too big or there are too many strikes against us. Every one of us makes a difference when we show up from that from that divine life, when we remember we are the place. The divine feeling and fire and creativity and passion and imagination and love shows up in our world. All we have to do is start. With one day, one bulb, one good idea, one yes to the universe. We start right where we are, with right what we have. Just start. Just start. So start now. So let's join in consciousness for a moment and lean into that creativity and imagination and fire and passion and love and joy that God is, that Spirit is, that the universe is, that is the very life of all that exists. that has created everything out of itself in order to know itself and see itself in expression. Let us just lean into that life for a moment and understand that it is around us and within us, that it is above us and below us, that it supports every breath we take and every thought we think and every beat of our hearts, that it is us in expression. And as we lean into that, what I know for each one of us is that we are not constrained by anything that has happened before this moment. That divine imagination and creativity comes with it, brings with it the fire and the passion, the love and the joy, the peace and the hope that each one of us rides as we ride the current of the river with ease and grace, not swimming upstream, but simply floating in it and saying yes to it as it carries us along the line of our vision, along the line of that idea that may start small and turn into something profoundly beautiful. Whether it's a relationship, a job, or a valley filled with daffodils, it turns into something amazing and powerful. Whether it's a kind word, saving a rescue animal, or founding a car dealership based on love. This is in every one of us. We are much, much more than we realize. So I know that each one of us does believe that more today than ever before, and continues to cultivate that belief that we truly are the place the divine shows up. We let it pour into us and through us into our world. And as we do, the world begins to gleam with beauty and kindness and love and passion and dreams expressed and joy. How grateful I am to know this truth about each one of us, this truth about myself. How grateful I am that we have each other to celebrate this truth with, that we have this time together to remember the deepest truth of our being. How grateful I am. And from this place of gratitude, I release these words, knowing that the universe in its infinite yes has already responded to them. It's already so. And we say together, and so it is.
I'm just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life. We are all just drops within a stream, flowing towards an ocean of light. We may forget where we come from, we may forget I'm a reflection of you. I am just a seed, a blessed seed with eternity unfolding in me. And I pray that as I grow, I will reveal the love that illuminates my soul. When I remember where I come from, when I remember where I'm going to, then I will see that you're a reflection the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one.
Amen. Now we have an opportunity to give in support of the work of our community. And giving is one of those things that puts us in touch with that flow of life, because we give from that flow, the place of deep gratitude for knowledge, for knowing that it is the very life of spirit that's flowing through us. When we give from that place, which is a place of fullness and love, we say yes to living even more abundantly. When we give from gratitude towards life, gratitude for life, our giving is done with love. And it accomplishes amazing things. So right now I just invite you to move into that attitude of gratitude for all the good things in your life. And take a moment to count your blessings. To be grateful for all that you have, all that you are, all that you experience. And know with me, my heart is open.
My heart is open.
I give from an open heart.
I give from an open heart.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
I know that as I give, I am given to.
And I am grateful.
And I am grateful.
And so it is.
And so it is.
All right. We're going to do a song written by Janice Stanfield called "The Trick is to Learn to Enjoy the Ride." So we're going to simulate this little choo-choo ride. Okay? So you guys can help us with that.
Life is a fast train through peaks and valleys, streets and valleys and countryside. You'll never know just how far you're going. The trick is to learn to enjoy the ride.